Hello everyone, welcome again. Well, in our previous video we discussed how you can trigger your TestNG test case directly from the code. Well, in this video we are going to discuss how you can design such kind of TestNG XML directly from the code. So in our previous case we need to design this XML manually. Okay, we need to manually specify that what are the classes which we want to execute as a part of this suite. So in order to design this kind of XML directly from the code, TestNG provides certain classes. For example, if I want to create a suite, there is a class called XML suite. And all these classes are coming from your TestNG jar. Similarly, if I want to design a test, there is a class called XML test. If I want to design a class, there is a class called XML class. Okay. So I'm going to use these classes to design the XML directly from the code. Okay. As you can see here, these are the classes which is coming from TestNG jar, and this is the API documentation. So which contain the method for the configuration. So I'm going to comment out this piece of code and add one more main method. Okay. So first of all, I need to create the suite. So here I will use XML suite class. XML suite. So whenever I say I will use class A or class B, that means I'm going to create the instance of that class and use that instance to specify certain configuration. XML suite equal to new XML suite. Okay. After that, we need to specify this configuration, that is the value of certain attributes. So if I go to the XML suite class, so here we have method for specifying that configuration. Okay. For example, you can specify the name, you can specify the parallel thing, so on. So I will use XML suite.setName, and the name, let's say this. Similarly, XML suite dot set parallel, I will supply false. XML suite dot set verbose, so I will specify as a 1. So with this configuration we have created the suite tag. Now in order to create the test tag, I will use the class called XML test. So here I will use XML test equal to new XML test. So here we have two constructor. One is a default constructor. The second one takes the object of XML suite. So this represents that to which suite I want to tag this object. Okay. So I'm going to hook this object, that is the XML test object, to our suite, because inside the suite the test is present. So that is the reason I have hooked the XML test object with XML suite object. Now again I will use the method to specify the configuration. So XML test dot set name, and let's say name is test-1. XML test dot set preserve order, I will make it as true. Okay. So by this configuration we have specified this tag. Now after that we need to create the class. Okay. So this will tell us that which are the classes which we want to execute as a part of this suite. So for that again I will use XML class, let's say public test class equal to new XML class. So if you look at this constructor, it is taking the argument of type class, which is a single class. Okay. Whereas in our previous case, in case of this method, it was taking the argument of array of type class. Okay. So here I will just specify the test public dot class. Okay. Now once this is done, we need to hook this object with our test. Okay. So inside the test, that is XML test, there is a method dot set XML classes. So this is the method which is going to hook your test classes with the test. And as you can see here, it takes the argument as list of XML classes. The reason why it is taking the list of classes is because you can have the single class inside your test tag, or you can have multiple classes. Okay. So here I will create a list. So list, and this will hold the XML classes as type. So list equal to new array list. Okay. So here I have created an array list, and inside this array list I will specify the class which I want to hook with this test. So add. So there is add method, and if you look at here, the add method is said, it says the XML class. So add, and this will be your list, sorry, public test class. Okay. And I'm going to specify this object over here. So once more, we have created array list which contain the set of classes which we want to execute as a part of this suite. Using this method, we have hooked those classes with our test. Okay. Now once this is done, we need to create the TestNG object to run those suite. So again, I will use here this statement. Okay. So inside this we have a method testng.setXML suite. This particular method will tag the suite with this object, and when I call the run method, so it is going to execute this suite. And with this configuration, we have already tagged or hooked other things with this suite. Again, if you look at this method, it will again take list as an argument. So here I will create a list. Now this time it will hold the XML suite type. Suite equal to new array list. So array list is a kind of a data structure, and you can compare it with your day-to-day job list or item list. Just like you have an item list, for example, in a list you have item 1, item 2, item 3. Similar type of implementation is a list in the memory. That means this data structure. So suite dot add, and I'm going to add this XML suite. So I have created a suite with certain configuration. I have bind the XML test with this suite. Then I created a class and again bind those class with our test. And finally I'm supplying this suite to our testng object which is going to execute this suite. So here I will call testng dot run. Okay. I will put a breakpoint over here and run this script in debug mode. So I'll do a step over. First it will create a suite, specify the configuration, then it will create a test and bind that test to suite, provide the configuration, include the classes which I want to execute, then create the instance of testng, add the suite which I want to execute, and then run it. Okay. So if I look at the console, as you can see here, it is coming from your test public method class. Okay, so all this code is internally designing this kind of XML. Okay, so here I have added single test. Let me add one more test. Okay, before that let me add multiple classes. So I'm going to create one more class that is for static method. So this will be static test class, and I'm going to add here. And if I run this, so if you look at the console, now it is executing both the classes which are the part of this suite. Now as you can see here we have two different test tag. So I'm going to design that also. So I will copy this configuration and paste it here. Let me make it as 2, name is 2. Okay, so I'm going to remove this from here. I will create one more list for the second test, list 2, and this will have this class. And here I'm going to add this class. So this will be XML test 2. And this will be a list 2. So here what I did, I have created two different test configuration, specify two different class, and added two different class in individual test configuration. So let me run this script in debug mode again. So first we will create the suite with certain configuration, then we will create the first test configuration, then second test configuration, then class, add the first class inside the first test configuration, add the second class inside the second test configuration, then finally add the suite and then execute it. So if I look at the console, there is no difference in the output, but from the designing point we have implemented like this. Inside suite we have two tests. Okay, so this was from the designing part where you have only classes. Now we have seen that we can include the listener also inside the XML. So here there is a method by which you can add the listener inside the suite. So XML suite dot add listener. Now here the difference is that in our previous case we either create the object and supply here, or we can create the anonymous object directly over here. But in this case we need to specify the listener in the form of string. That means you need to specify the listener in this manner. Okay, means along with the package name. So I will just specify the same over here. And if you go to the custom iSuite listener, it implements the iSuite listener, and we have override this two method. Okay, so in this manner you can specify the listener. XML suite dot there is one more method called setListener. If you want to specify a list of listener, using the add I can specify only single listener, but let's say you have more than one listener, you can use this method to specify the list of listener, and again it should be the listener name along with the package. Now once this is done, I will run this script. Now if you look at the console, so this part and this part is coming from the customized suite listener, whereas this two part is coming from the test case belonging to individual class. Okay, so in this manner you can design the TestNG XML directly from the code. So that's all for this video, and thanks for watching.